Your tax dollars are paying for the Rights for Migrants legal scam. Pretty soon, especially in the state of New York and New York City, the illegal immigrants coming into the United States are going to have more representation than normal U.S. citizens do in small claims court, don't have to have an attorney, divorce court, housing court. They're not going to have attorneys are not provided there. But for anybody going to an immigration hearing, going to be provided a attorney paid for by you and I, the tax-paying citizens. Does this make any sense at all? That's what we're talking about today. Here we go. Let's get into it. Your tax dollars are paying for the Rights for Migrants legal scam. Oh, coming right out and just calling out the shenanigans for what they are, the legal scam. The beauty of attorneys and what they do for a living is if they think about something, they can bill it, right? Yeah, I was working on your case. And no matter which way, things go, unless they're working on a contingency fee, they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid. Yeah. Oh, I went to your hearing. Got to get paid. Yeah. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's just how it goes. That's how the world works. Sometimes you need an attorney, and when you got to have them, you got to have them. So let's get into it. Here we go. As a record number of migrants invade the United States, wreaking havoc in New York City and other communities, one group is winning big time: the public advocacy lawyers. Their business is to constantly sue to win more so-called rights for migrants. Rights to shelter. Yeah, rights to shelter. You got rights to meals. You got rights to health care. You even got the right to vote in local elections. Who pays the bills on both sides of these lawsuits? You and I and all the God-fearing tax-paying citizens. That's who pays for it. So you're literally paying for these advocacy lawyers when budget cuts are happening at the same time, taking away your civil services. That doesn't seem very fair. Well, it's not. It's not. It's just this is insanity, out of control. Shenanigans, I say. Rights to shelter, rights to meals, rights to health care, and even the right to vote in local elections. Who pays the bills? You and I do. Taxpayer money largely funds these legal combatants, which include the Coalition for the Homeless, the Legal Aid Society, and the Vera Institute of Justice. They're paying to be legally coerced into providing more for migrants, even at the cost of cutting vital city services that you need at a bare minimum to feel, call it, safe in your community. Oh no, let's cut some cops. 5% cut across the board. That's what Eric Adams in New York City is facing. He's got to make some budget cuts because he spent so far about $1 billion in the migrants. It's absurd, but it's about to get worse. And that's why we're talking about it here today. The New York City Council this month passed Resolution 556, calling on the state legislature to guarantee as a right that all migrants have lawyers paid for by taxpayers when they go to immigration court. You're guaranteed a lawyer. I mean, why wouldn't everybody in the world literally, sometimes I'm exaggerating, but this is not one of those shenanigans that I'm exaggerating. Why wouldn't everybody in the world go to New York City? Because they're going to get an attorney to help them out. I mean, wild, right? It would be a first in the nation guarantee. All right, it's New York City, so it'll probably happen, right? Resolution 556 would give migrants more rights than American citizens have. 100%. There's a lot of court situations where you got to pay to play, right? Not if you're an immigrant. Not if you walked illegally in through the southern border and just came on in. Hey, yeah, here I am. No one else is guaranteed a publicly funded lawyer in civil court matters, such as housing court issues or divorce. You're on your own. And if you want to pay to play, you gonna pay. Or 53% of your stuff right out the window. Yeah. Why don't you just go ahead and sign that over right here, Sean? Okay, I will. All right. And how much do I owe you? Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's just how this works, right? Yikes. The city's council proposal would make the Big Apple even more of a magnet for migrants than it already is. You think? Who's behind this push? The Vera Institute for Justice, for one. Interesting. Self-serving group of attorneys. Just sue the crap out of people. All right. The more lawsuits we can get, the more direction we can get on doing more lawsuits. And the more lawsuits, the more money we make because we get paid by the hour. Vera claims we need a federally funded universal legal defense service for migrants. Do we? Have we ever had? Does anybody ever have one? Tax-paying citizens are going to just pony up for well-paid attorneys? I mean, it makes no sense. And yet this is New York City. So why wouldn't this make sense? In short, a national army of left-wing lawyers paid for by you and me. The Vera Institute is not the only organization cashing in on migrants' rights. It also goes on to say, what better place to launch this lunatic idea than at the New York City Council? Hey, it's compassionate. It's liberal. That's what we're doing. Oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Let's give them all attorneys. I mean, we want to make sure that our virtue signaling as a sanctuary city is just epically complete with, let's give each one a $5,000 budget. And they can just, they can really get the rights that they need. Mayor Eric Adams went to court months ago for temporary relief from the rigid rules and settlements that define what the city must provide the homeless as tens of thousands of homeless migrants arrive. Immediately, the Legal Aid Society and the Coalition for the Homeless swooped in, as they do, claiming his plan would gut the homeless' long-standing rights. These lawsuits are largely funded by you through grants and contracts from the city and the state. Do you remember when he went to basically just override the long-standing law in New York City of you have to provide a roof over somebody's head if they are houseless. You just have to. So Eric Adams, knowing, hey, the budget's busted here because I've got all these illegal immigrants coming in, spent about $1 billion so far. And I got another probably $4 billion to go just in all the folks, the 67,000 folks that New York City has within their city limits right now within their system. We're not talking about the 15,000 person caravan that's headed to the southern border right now. We're not talking about the daily thousands and thousands of people that are being shipped up by bus, by plane. Chicago's now putting people on planes. Hey, you can't stay here, but New York City is looking good. We'll give you a one-way plane ride. How about that? It's that away. It's east, young man. It's east. So Manhattan Judge Gerald Leibovitz urged the parties to compromise and arranged for the lawyers on all sides representing the city, the state, and the migrants to meet in his chambers several times. Meanwhile, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. The attorneys are making bank. They always do. They always make bank, except on contingency. And that's their problem if they don't win on those because they accept a percentage of, well, if I win, I'm going to make big. And if I don't, well, that's going to suck. Picture these meetings. Here's what these meetings are. And we're talking about Mayor Eric Adams with the attorneys for the homeless folks and with the judge and a bunch of city officials. Imagine this. Picture these meetings. Just full of shenanigans, right? Picture these meetings, a bevy of high-priced lawyers bickering back and forth, knowing no matter how the issues sort out, they're going to be getting paid by you. Yeah. It's kind of like this in a divorce where you've got certain assets that are known to be in play and the spouse's attorney just nickels and dimes you on every single little bit along the divorce process because you got it. Cha-ching, they're getting paid. And then you're forced to pay your own attorney for every little item along the way. That's how attorneys run the bill up. Period. That's how it's done. In the end, there's not a lot left over for either the ex-husband or the ex-spouse, the ex-wife. Weird, right? Huh. Interesting how that works out. There's only a finite amount of resources. Oh, and when the attorneys take up a big whack, not a lot left over. But sometimes people have to live through that experience to figure out what's going on, don't they? They do. That's an expensive lesson. So this scam is being repeated all over the nation. The Justice Action Center, also publicly funded, is suing the Biden administration on behalf of the Haitian asylum seekers whose rights it claims were violated by the U.S. Border Patrol agents on horseback, trying to stop them as they crossed the Rio Grande. Remember when they said that the agents on horses were whipping the Haitian refugees? Remember when they were just whipping them? Oh, just whoosh, 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 whoosh. No, they weren't. They were actually trying to get the horses to go in a direction so that they could chase down the immigrants, because that's their job. Oh, yeah. Well, anywho, I mean, we just wanted to go after, those that are persecuting the Haitians, because we got a good suit here. I mean, we're going to be able to bill. We're going to reimagine and rethink this whole thing 20 times over. Going to get paid for each time we do that. Lawyers for the migrants and lawyers for the Biden administration will cross swords. Crossing the swords. Never mind who wins. They're all being paid by us. 100% true. It just is. Anytime you get into litigation, the attorneys make out like bandits, because no matter what it is, whether you're coming, going, it's a day that ends with the Y, and they're going to get paid. It's a free country. Anyone can sue. But why should we be paying for these legal boxing matches? Disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo wrote in these pages last week that the remedy for the New York City's mounting woes is to sue the federal government for more money. Wrong. That would send more wasted funds down the litigation rat hole. Cuomo also argues that the right to shelter should apply to all the counties instead of just Gotham, and that state lawmakers should be fairly distributing the migrant burden statewide. So it's the right to shelter. That is the law that's on the book, the long-standing law that is basically forcing New York City to provide housing no matter what to everybody, because otherwise the city is literally breaking the law. So Eric Adams went to the city and said, hey, need to overturn this because I need to be able to do some more things as far as provide shelter and housing. And I can't do it if I'm both supporting the homelessness here and also the illegal immigrants here. We've only got room for so much. But these knuckleheads from the ACLU and these other places, I always say ACLU because ACLU is just terrible. It's just terrible. It's just like, yeah, the Civil Liberty Union, whatever. Spoken like a Pole who is eyeing a city position and no longer cares about the rest of the state. He's talking about Cuomo. And is Andrew Cuomo, is he gonna be the mayor again? He might be, right? It's like we've forgotten about him and there's nobody else. We forgot about that whole, what was he? He was alleged to put his dick somewhere probably he shouldn't have. I'm sorry, ladies. But there's so much of that out there, right? It's like, back in 1981. All right. The notion there's a right to maybe he was giving out hugs. I know he's a big hugger, right? A big hugger. Yeah. Who knows? The notion there's a right to shelter in the state constitution was concocted by the Coalition for the Homeless in a lawsuit settled in 1981. Did the attorneys get paid on that one? Yep, they did. It has tied the hands of city leaders ever since. It should be legally challenged. Extending that questionable right to migrants who just arrived here and then imposing it statewide would compound the wrong. Oh, it's New York City. That's what they're doing. It's what they want to do. It's compassion. It's, providing equal opportunity for, the people that they're virtue signaling about as a sanctuary city. Tell lawmakers to stop funding the legal advocacy industry with our money. That's what the author is saying. Well, that's far too reasonable. That would cut down on the shenanigans, wouldn't it? We can't have that. It's time to break the stranglehold these publicly funded lawyers, under the guise of doing good, have on our city and nation. I can't agree more. Every single damn time that there is, somebody gets in trouble with something, and it's an issue of immigration, there's always somebody that just stops in, or homelessness. There's always, some legal entity that jumps in. And invariably, they are funded by our taxpayers' dollars. So there's this whole system that operates out there. And we're kind of looking in from the outside going, that's interesting. I'd like to get an attorney for me. I got to go to eviction court. I got to go to whatever. I got to go to divorce court, even though I don't want to get a divorce. I want to work it out. But my ex is my soon to be ex, hopefully my ex, this is the route that she wanted to go. So now I'm forced to lawyer up and pay a whole bunch of bills. It doesn't seem all that fair when the illegal immigrants, they come here because of an open southern border in the current administration saying, bring us all of them. All of them. I mean, all of them. Because, we're serious about the border, but, that's it. And the border is mostly closed, the exception of the thousands of people coming across it, that now taxpayer citizens are going to pay for attorneys for them once they actually get their court date. And that is the overall lunacy that's happening in New York City right now. Even as we've got caravans of maybe 15,000 people headed their way through the southern border, and they're going to end up all throughout the United States. Even as that's happening, New York City is crunching down on people beyond 30-day stays and 60-day stays with families. They're saying, no, you got to go, kicking under the curb. Meanwhile, the budget is just wildly out of whack, but more money is going to be spent on attorneys to make sure that the illegal immigrants have all of their rights met. Yeah. And as the folks fitting that bill are not getting legal services for any of the stuff that could use the benefit of an attorney. Wild situation, straight up shenanigans in New York City. But would you expect anything less? I don't think so. So you've got this ongoing super volatile situation that I've been honing in on, because it's just such an out of control event. It's just this willy-nilly series of stuff going on. And it has to do with a border policy of all things, right? It's like, just let it go. It'll be fine. Well, this is where it's not fine. And this is why you've got so much going into the legal processes that of the folks that are coming across the southern border. They've got more rights than tax-paying citizens in the U.S. that have been here all their lives. They've literally got more representation and more rights because of these political entities that put these groups of attorneys in place. And, for the betterment of mankind and for the good of society, here's what we're going to do. All right. It's pretty one-sided, and it's just straight up wrong. But it's never stopped New York from doing anything along these lines before. So why wouldn't you have it? And then you'll just have that Chicago will copy it. Washington, D.C. will copy it. I mean, it's virtue signaling at its best. We're going to give you an attorney, even though you may or may not need one. Mandatory. You got to have one. Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's how this game is played. I don't see any other way of explaining it. You can try to tell me, hey, you know what? These folks, they really need the public advocacy. They really need the legal advocacy of an attorney. It's like, well, what have they been doing up to date? How do all these other people get into the country? Weird, right? All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for supporting. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.